so excited.
It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
What's up, everybody? It is Two Guys and a Goalie. Tom Gazzola in for Dusty Nielsen, Joaquin Gage inside the EST studios, and joining us from, I believe, his office, Matty Cassian for another great edition of the program following Edmonton's 5-4 loss to the Vancouver Canucks in Game 1 of the second round series. Lots to talk about, as always. Get into the text line, 780-218-9999. And then the nasty chat's already been going strong. Man, YouTube has been off the hook. I know our audio side, like the radio portion of the station, has been humming along quite nicely, but the YouTube situation continues to pick up and gain momentum and big time steam. So that's awesome to see. A lot of text coming in already.
I love watching you guys at night get all cuddled and sorted in bed, and then just get ready for a little bit of Cass and Tommy at night. I mean, it's great. You guys, it was on fire last night.
Wow.
I was going to say something, and then I'm like, why would I even say it? Like, the thing's scrolling like a teleprompter.
It's
so
unreal.
You guys aren't going to see what I said anyway. I'd have to direct message you. So, and then I let you guys buck. But great show last night, boys.
Thank you, Gage.
Oh, it was hot, wasn't it?
It was hot.
That was the hottest. That was the hottest I've ever seen. Like, I couldn't keep up with the nasty chat. Like, it was just flying.
Yeah,
it was just flying. It was people were spicy, and a lot of Vancouver trolls in there. Some of them were actually pretty funny.
Yes.
Which hey, I appreciate. It's fun to see some of that banter, and that's why we wanted a Canadian series. So but thanks, Gager. Appreciate it.
Oh, look at this. Teamwork makes the dream work. Cass, like, when you popped into the nasty chat, did you notice, like, it was just like, brrr, and it's not like the quick ones. It's just like it goes from one down to the bottom, and it just like you can't even see. It's like a blur almost.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I was like, oh, I'm going to say something, and then I got caught reading it, and then I had to pause it to read some because some were funny. And, it's great to see the interaction between, especially fan bases. Mm-hmm. So maybe this is kind of the new medium of how fans can kind of get into the feel part of something more. I mean, this was, you said it at the beginning, and everyone, we didn't even know this kind of existed. This kind of nasty chat, right? So it's obviously it's taken on a life of its own. Cass, caps lock Cass is a hashtag going, and most and so it's I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Hopefully this series can go a lot as long as it possibly can, because it's a lot of fun online, the way that fans can now exchange and interact with one another.
A couple of things about that. Like Caster 1990 says, did you guys get whiplash keeping up with the warp speed chats like last night? Cass yells, no. It is insane. But we had this later in the show. I don't know if, Cass, you were off by that. I think you were. I read this text that came in, and it asked about Reed's show on Ched, and if Reed let us know about like a dumb caller. And Cass, you remember at 1260 we would take calls, and what we found and talking to Iwanek was like sometimes the calls that we would take, whether it was a legit one by a passionate fan or somebody looking to stir things up and be a dum-dum, because there are a bunch of those and they get a kick out of it. We made the conscious effort. We're like, no, even though we have the capability to take calls, we're like, we're not going to do it. And the nasty chat has kind of filled that void, and I feel like and then some, Cass. and we can react at the same time to stuff as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can react immediately. You can still interact. And we're on our end, you're not having to, I mean, it's like you can instantly filter through the ones where they're just trying to stir the pot.
Yeah.
And the disingenuous ones, as opposed to people that are legitimately like, no, I want to interact. I want to get this off my chest. I'm frustrated with this. I want to talk about that. And so to me, it's like it's a happy medium where it's like you're not getting the person that is too inebriated to really have a coherent thought that somehow squeaks through, but you can still have the people interacting and engaging in a way that I think, or I hope is meaningful for them and bring some life out of them too. And even the trolls, I know sometimes some of the trolls it's a little annoying, but sometimes it's kind of funny too. And it is nice to be able to interact and see people interacting in a way that is hopefully respectful and fun. But it's just like if you have a buddy that cheers for another team or a family member that cheers for another team, like being able to interact with them in that way too, which, you can harp on each other, sometimes maybe you could get a little frustrated with it, but at the same time, it's like, no, it just engages people more, which to me is fun because that's what it's about. When people ask me, about we do, I'm like, well, we're doing the exact same thing that most people are doing. We're just being recorded doing it, like talking with our friends about sports and about the Oilers, about hockey. So yeah, it's fun. It's a blast. It's been great seeing everything grow. And I mean, Tommy, that may have been a record last night for most views, at least on the YouTube standpoint. I'm not sure where we're at on the the rest of the streaming mediums, but
8,000 views, and usually the numbers on the listenership side, the radio quote unquote side, is generally stronger than YouTube.
Yeah.
Awanic has all that data, but very, very busy night and a great one. Lots of fun. A couple of things to wrap up that thought. Reed still takes calls. Him and Robbie Brown take calls, obviously. We and Cass, I think you'll remember this name. Terry was one of the ones that would call our show. And call Reed's show. And his thing, Gager, was, I don't know if you remember because you would always listen too, but he'd be like, oh, they need to blow this up. They need to trade Draisaitl, and they need to bring in Jim Benning.
Oh, right. Yeah.
He was always on the Jim Benning. He was always on the Jim Benning.
Yeah.
Every
Wasn't
single
he from
time.
Vancouver,
he's like, fire
too?
everybody, bring in Jim Benning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just like, this guy again. So I had, with Hernan, we had gotten Hernan used to being like, sorry, Terry, can't take your call tonight. And we had Jeff Walker last season. Remember Jeff, Cass?
Yeah.
And I hadn't warned Jeff about Terry, and it was the night the Oilers were eliminated by the Golden Knights. Terry phoned in like 10 minutes before the show started, and he's like, I have a lot to say about tonight's game. I will hold. And he waited for 10 minutes and then waited for us to get through the intro of the old pre- and post-game show. Cass and I went back and forth, a little bit of banter on the game. And then Jeff's like, hey, we've had a call waiting. This guy called in 10 minutes before the show started. We're a few minutes in. Let's get to him. It's Terry on the line. And I was like, oh, no.
Oh, no. He made it. He got through.
And he got his bullet points in. Got to get rid of Kenny Holland. Got to get rid of Leon Draisaitl, and you need Jim Benning to be the solution. I'm like, Terry, we gotta go, pal. And I was just like, damn it, I'm so sorry, Jeff. Yeah, it was bad. So I'm assuming it was something like that with Reed, and yes, we do share notes, but with our new format and the nasty chat, it's definitely changed that.
Yeah, no, it's everything changes.
Yeah,
if you got to adapt or you die. And no, it's a lot of fun. I've actually, even my second screen at home, I've turned it the other way, so it's straight vertical. So then I can do that pop out chat, so I can see it more. But even then, it was like it was a fast teleprompter.
It's neat to see too. Like, you can pop in, Cass can pop in on any show. The boys, I think Dusty was in there for a while. Trev Zacticum, sometimes moderates. I think Wanek talks about moderating it a little bit more, and that's something that we might have to do. But it is neat. Like you said, Gager, it has evolved. And speaking of that, if you want to get some questions in for the boys in regard to Game 1, fire those our way, 780-218-9999. And then Nasty Chat's been going even before the show started. And we also have a poll that Zacticum put up. You want to read it out, or you want me to read it out? I'll let you get in there. say hello to Zach to come really quickly.
Yeah, how's it going, guys? I put up the poll. Has your view on the series changed after game one? And 80 votes in. It looks like 69% of you guys said no.
All right, Cass, let's start with you. What do you think of the poll and then the results so far?
Yeah, mine has changed slightly. I would say the overall result is still Edmonton winning, but I think I said, because I had picked Edmonton in 6, but it was going to be a tight 6. Watching that game yesterday, I'm like, well, Vancouver did look really good. They pressured Edmonton. Edmonton had some difficulties. Now, I don't think Edmonton played very well, but they had some difficulties. So I was like, oh, well, maybe it's Edmonton in 7 now. Like, it's going to be maybe a little bit tighter than I thought it was going to be. So it's changed slightly, but the overall makeup of I still think Edmonton wins the series, that hasn't changed.
Gager, the outlook, we were talking prior to going on air, not as rosy for you.
No, I'm really on the fence on this one after. I just felt that game one was a big step on the psychological side of not, and I know we've harped upon this for a while that the regular season doesn't mean anything, but I do think it can help in cases like this, right? Like, so all of a sudden you get into this microcosm of Canadiana of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and all these guys are going to be inundated with questions about, oh, you haven't been able to beat this team. Oh, you've dominated this team this year. So, and for the Canucks to do what they did last night, to come back from the depths and get that win, that's just that, and I think it provides a little bit of it's not the huge splinter, but it's a start of a splinter of doubt into the Edmonton Oilers, because they're gonna, of course, they think they can beat this team, but they have to win game 2. They have to get that confidence that they can beat this team.
Yeah, I fully understand that rationale, and I don't disagree with it. I will stick.
No, Gage just hates the Oilers. That's what I hear.
Thanks, Cass.
That's not what I hear. That's not what I hear.
I'll walk home now, and hopefully I'll put a disguise on.
Someone's gonna run you over if they see you now. Oh,
yeah.
I'm kidding. I say that just.
Gager, before Tommy moves on.
Yep.
I was just gonna ask, Gage, are you gonna wear your leather on Friday?
Oh yeah. I'll be draped in
Important
leather.
question.
Yeah, full
Nice.
chaps.
Good.
You know, even those the undergarments might even match. So
May I?
Nice.
Do you have something that says "Daddy likes leather"?
Ooh.
And do you mean leather, Daddy?
Ooh, that
Leather Daddy.
maybe we might have to get some custom stuff.
That's a Tobias Funke special.
Yeah,
So Arrested Development, brilliant show. But that leather jacket you have is sick.
It is.
It's awesome.
No, I'll maybe venture out to Hudson's with that bad boy.
Hey, it was great having you. Hey, Cass, like I said, you've been out a couple times, but it was a good time at the EST watch party at Hudson's Bourbon Street. We're there again tomorrow. We switched to white for the home games. It's going to be a blast. So, I have to say that. I'll just cap off this early conversation here on Two Guys and a Goalie with I haven't wavered from, I think, Edmonton in 6. They got smacked, boys. They got smacked. They got a wake-up call. Let's see their metals being tested. We give them the credit for being mature. Gager, today on the Hangout, you said the praise when they hear it, they don't handle it well, and they proved that again last night. I still think Edmonton in 6. And Cass, they bounced back in that Calgary series 2 years ago after an even crazier game 1.
Yeah, well, I mean, it happens. You know, look at Dallas, Vegas.
Yeah.
The recent series. You know, look yesterday, Boston, Florida, where Florida bounced back in dramatic fashion the next game after getting absolutely worked by Boston in game 1. Like it does happen. There's a reason they're not 1-game series, that they're long series. They're 7-game series. You got to win 4. So the opportunity is there for them to bounce back. Now, if they lose the next one, I mean, yeah, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. But, you know, even with that, well, then you win the next 2 at home, and all of a sudden it's a 3-game series. So it's a long series for a reason. You know, someone was in, who was it? Was it Kenneth? Kenneth Zuberi in on the Nasty Chat that was like, let me just scroll up to it. I want to say the whole thing. Cass, thoughts on defensive coverage, outlet passes, and poor, slow decisions in D-zone. And I replied with bad, and I'll stick with that because has my thoughts on it. It was bad, and I think they have a lot better. And I think there is plenty of opportunity for them to respond here on Friday.
And that's something you always talk about. And when you said it earlier in the year, I was just like, yeah, Gage, you nailed it. It's you look for that in the first 5 to 10 minutes. And even though they were winning, it was still not particularly.
Yeah, it was still sloppy. I want to see both of these teams at the top of their game playing against one another. That's what I want to see.
And that wasn't last night.
Yeah, it wasn't even a teeter-totter kind of game. Like the Oilers were good. I would say they were good for the first 13 minutes of that game, right? I thought the Vancouver Canucks outplayed the Oilers for the better part of that game. And although it wasn't their best effort either. But I want to see what happens when, tete-a-tete with both of them playing their best. I want to see what that actually looks like. So, and I think if it does get to that point, I do still give the edge to the Oilers. But again, like we said, I think Cass, you said Oilers in 6 now, maybe possibly 7. Yeah, I'm thinking this series goes to 7, but I'm just not sure who wins it.
You've got Trev worried now.
Oh yeah,
he's with you on that bandwagon.
He's a dystopian mess right now, the way he looks. So
my goodness.
Although his shoes match his hoodie, which is impressive for a guy that looks like he's a Fallout character, but it's amazing.
He's from Vault 33. He's giggling over there. Let's get to this text. Keep those coming in, 780-218-9999. The Oilers dropped game 1 5-4 at the hands of the Vancouver Canucks. Had that 4-1 lead. I should also mention that Two Guys and a Goalie brought to you by Coolbet Canada. Deonce via the nasty chat. I was sitting on this one waiting for this moment. Deonce says, nothing has changed. The Oilers have zero killer instinct, and their number one goalie is still, quote-unquote, learning and growing. And I kind of, in a mocking tone, Cass, you heard me yesterday saying, Stuart Skinner post-game is going to say he's thankful to go through those experiences, and he will be better for it in the next game. I appreciate his mindset, his positivity. He talked about the books he read in the offseason to get into the right mental space, to learn from these experiences. But Deonce kind of throwing a bit of a backhand compliment to learning and growing. I'll defer to the goalie. Can you learn and grow at 25 in the playoffs when the pressure cooker is cranked to 11?
Oh, definitely. That's when you learn the most. And unfortunately in life, you don't learn from success. You learn from your failures and what not to do. Goaltending is kind of close to it's essentially getting your game to a point where you're solid and proficient, and it's about not letting bad habits creep into your game. And you have to continually relearn these types of things. And I've mentioned numerous times, I think that Stuart Skinner, the way he can read the play is tops in the NHL. When Miller is beside you, one of the best players in the NHL.
He's a very good player, yeah.
You have to be aware of what he is able to accomplish. And we look to that tip goal, which we've all talked about, which is an unbelievable play. But you have to...
That's got to be a save.
It's got to be a save, yeah. It's a great play, but you have to realize Miller's capable of doing some amazing things.
Yes.
So, he's at the side, puck going. I'm making sure that I'm getting right back to that post, and nothing's going to beat me short side in that. That's just, it's a... your brain is operating at quantum speeds at that point.
Sure.
He's done that for so long. But last night, just not recognizing that particular play. I talked about what I thought about the Garland goal, and it was just a point where I got to make a save, and I overplayed it. But I expect both goalies to be a lot better next game. Really.
Yeah, Shelov's wasn't great. Cass, your take on this?
Well, I mean, and on the comments and the people ooh, what, you want him to be freaking out? and to be like, oh, I was so horrible and I'm not going to learn anything from this experience and it was just bad and I'm bad and everything's bad and we suck and we're going to lose. Like, is that what you wanted? Is that what you expected? Or did you expect him to say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to learn from this. We're going to be better. Like, what do you, for people that didn't like, his comments or the way he carried himself, I'm like, hey, you're ridiculous in that. But yeah, I mean, he does have to learn something from it.
Yep.
And you can learn even moment to moment in the playoffs. You learn shift by shift in the NHL, game by game, like moment by moment. There's a reason there's iPads on the bench now, right? Because you are adjusting and adapting and learning and growing every single moment you're in a game, and even away from the game, after game, watching video, practicing. Like you're always trying to learn and to grow. So I have no problem with him saying that. Does he need to be better? Yes, he does. Of course he does.
Yeah.
Bottom line, yeah, for sure. Now I didn't mind the one goal, the Lindholm goal from, nearly as much as I think you did, Tom.
I got
the Dakota Joshua goal where I was like, it was tough. I mean, reading a bounce behind the net, trying to push back to your far post and get across. Like, so two of the goals I would say they're not lucky goals by the Vancouver Canucks because it was a great play. One was a pass out front, so a little bit lucky, and one was a great play, shooting for a rebound behind the net, knowing your own rink, knowing the boards, knowing the angles. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not worried about Skinner, and I'm not worried about his response. I think he'll be fine moving forward.
Well, look at the. I shouldn't bring this up, but Jack Campbell, looking back to when he was with the Leafs, this guy was he beat himself to a pulp.
Yeah.
And he actually had to refocus and started talking like Skinner does as a 29-year-old or 28-year-old goaltender. Mm-hmm. Now you have a guy, this is, again, something that he can put in the rearview mirror. He goes, yeah, I accept what's happened, but I'm going to move forward. I'm not going to beat myself up over it, or it's just going to snowball and I won't be able to get out of this hole. So, yeah, this is exactly, like you said, Katz, this is what you want your goalie to say in those situations. You don't want him to go, yeah, it's my fault. I didn't put that in that. Speaking from experience, I beat myself up way too much over bad games where I couldn't, just shelf them and move on. Mm-hmm. That was and it's very difficult to do. The fact that Stuart Skinner at his age can what he's saying is what I would have loved to been able to do back then is
I get that
is a very mature hockey player.
Yep, and
go ahead,
if you guys didn't catch it, and people had jumped in on the nasty chat. A lot of Stuart Skinner's phrasing was like, we can't let that goal go in. We can't do this. We can't do that, which again is, I think, the right thing to say. Yeah. Like he's not, because you own it as a team. You win as a team, you lose as a team. It takes everybody out there. And for those goals, everybody was involved in those plays. Like even the last goal, which was the worst goal, the one we definitely would want him to make a save on, and you want it back. It's like, well, the puck still had to get there. On a stretch play where Darnell Nurse got caught flat-footed, there was, and a well-executed play from a set breakout by the Vancouver Canucks that Edmonton didn't adjust to in time. That created the opportunity. Now, you want the save in that instance, but it's like, yeah, there's other things going on the ice as well that factor into it, and just taking the mentality of a we, it's us, it's we, it's the team, it's not me, it's not I, it's not just myself. I think it's important in the playoffs mentally.
That's kind of like a textbook way of handling a bad night, right? Like you're just following the guideline, basically. Yes, we'd like to be better. We can't let that in. And then not fueling the fire by basically tearing himself apart. Like you said,
you don't. And I mean, it's easy for a goaltender to do too, right? They can take all the blame because you're the last line of defense. Distributing kind of the burden of mistakes throughout the whole lineup, I think, is way more beneficial for a mindset of a goalie. All
right, let's go to Gordon here in the nasty chat. This is on the topic of goaltending. There's a bunch of other stuff that we will definitely be hitting on, and keep those questions coming in, 780-218-9999, as well as the nasty chat. So Gordon says, Skinner should be platooning with the more experienced goalie instead of the way the Oilers have thrown him to the Wolves after Campbell kept imploding. I don't necessarily agree with what Gordon's saying.
That was as close to a platoon as you want this year with the way it is shaped up.
Skinner finished with I think 59 games played.
It was, and Pickard was solid as a backup.
Campbell got 5.
Yeah,
and then they dispatched him.
No, I completely I have to disagree with that. It's not. Only in certain situations do you have that real platoon system. Boston has kind of that, but even now, who's playing for Boston? Swayman.
Ullmark won a Vezina last year.
Exactly. So, I mean, and the other one, maybe the Rangers, but you're not going to see Quick in that series, So it's you got to provide enough rest for a guy and 59 games, whatever, for Skinner, that's perfect. And the way he's progressed, and he's done. It's not like this is the first time he's been in the playoffs. No. It's not the first time he's been a number one goalie. This is something he's done before, not at this level. Granted, I guess last year too, but no. This is the growth of a second year NHL goaltender that is way beyond where you would normally progress to this point.
That's a good point. Cass, you want to chime in on that?
No, Gage summed it up well.
Nice. Okay,
Yep,
beautiful.
You took it well, buddy.
All right. Let's go to teamwork makes the dream work. I love it. Let's go to VR Montenegro. Happy birthday, Mike. He celebrated. Him and his lovely wife Ginger came down to Hudson's yesterday. It was Mike's birthday. So VR Montenegro, happy birthday. Hope it was a good one. I know the Oilers with their result spoiled some of the fun, but until then, it was a good time. VR Montenegro says, when does Stetcher get into a game? Can you give CC a break? Cass, let's go to you on that one.
Well, you're not going to Stetcher unless someone gets hurt.
Yeah. -6. You and I talked about it on the post game. Him and Nurse. I said that not getting a couple of saves from Skinner didn't help, but at the same time, yes, those guys need to be more reliable as veterans, right?
Oh yeah. Of course they do. It was a bad game. They had a bad game. They didn't deal well with the pressure, turned too many pucks over, too scrambly in their own end, not being decisive on plays, being caught in between. It was a bad game. Bad game for them.
Cass, I wanted to get your point. We talked about it on the Hangout today. I felt, I saw the slash on Besser, the way that the low cross checks to Leon after they saw blood in the water, the way that after the whistle with Connor. I don't like diving, obviously, but what did Maddie refer to it?
Embellishment?
Not embellishment.
Maddie,
what did you call diving? Playing the game. I forget what he was.
The game within the game?
Yeah. Gamesmanship. Yeah. That's what the term he used. And I mean, just drawing attention to something. I mean, I saw Zadorov just cross-checking, like giving Leon a couple good, cross-checks to the lower back. And Leon retaliated with the slash. But don't you think it would be beneficial just to, lack of a bit, take a knee at that
point.
To
go down? Just to go down?
But don't go down to draw the penalty. Go down to it hurt and get back up. Like it and make it evident.
But to draw the penalty.
Well, maybe.
Or to get the next penalty.
Right.
But maybe
to get the next penalty.
Yeah, because that's what I'm like, make the refs think that they missed something, so to speak. And give yourself a little bit more of an opportunity to not take those shots all the time. I think could be beneficial because these guys are hard as nails, I love the phrase, they're cooking bacon without shirts on, right? Like, so just another way to play the game a little bit and maybe get in a couple extra goals. But because let's face it, that power play is lethal.
Yeah. I mean, you could use some gamesmanship. I mean, the Besser dive was horrible.
Cass, where did you go? Your audio went down.
Is it not working?
Your mic went down.
Did you break your microphone? Did you unplug it? Oh, there we go. He's gonna fix that. There you go. Did you fix it? No. Let's get to a couple of texts as he fixes it. I want to get to this one from Sailor. Says, I had the same amount of shots on net last night as Connor McDavid, and my wife gave birth last Friday. Sailor, congratulations, by the way.
Sailor.
Yeah, I heard Dusty giving him props and Lieutenant Eric, but I wanted to pass along a congrats to you and your wife on the birth of your child. Eden texting in says, "Afternoon, boys. I'm pretty sure neither team has played their best game yet." That's fair.
Yep.
So I don't think fans should panic yet. Were there any surprises last night for you guys? I was surprised at how the Nurse-CC pair were exposed almost every shift, even though Tocchet didn't seem to chase that matchup at all. I think that what Eden's saying falls into the theme of the Oilers were their own worst enemies, creating their own problems, shooting themselves in the foot. And that's part of, like, not having a good night from two veteran guys in Nurse and CC.
Yeah, no, they gave the Canucks a lot of opportunities, and they took advantage of it. And even then, they weren't like great opportunities. So there was a multitude of mistakes that went on throughout there. It was a weird game. I still think the Canucks played better for the better part of it. They were the better team.
Was that the biggest surprise? Because Eden was also asking about any surprises that popped up for you guys.
Yeah, when I really think, if I really think, just the intensity level of the Oilers, like,
or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it wasn't, and I mean they didn't. I thought there would be more of maybe a little bit more aggression. It wasn't, not that it was a no-hitter, but I thought that they could. A team that's going to establish their speed, because when I look back at the Kings, now that you look at it and watch that game, the Kings were a slower team.
Absolutely.
It was a slower paced game.
Absolutely.
So, and that was what I thought about. Okay, the Canucks are like watching that Nashville series. This is a lot quicker pace. Kind of it's the way the Kings played, and I wondered how the Oilers would respond to that. I thought it would be quicker because the Oilers want to play with a quick pace too, and it seemed like they were recency bias of playing against the Kings. They were like a little bit caught off guard of the pace of that game throughout it.
Cass uses a term, playing with intentionality. It seemed like Edmonton maybe more reactive than proactive in that case. Cass, you're back. Your mic's good and everything. Did you want to finish your point, or did you want to hop on that?
I can't remember what my point was.
Eden, we're like goldfish here with our memories, and that's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Eden was asking if there are any surprises, and then was also talking about the CC Nurse pairing. So Gage was talking about proactive and reactive, Edmonton being more reactive or not playing with what you call intentionality. And then the hits thing, just going back to Gage's point, it was officially on the score sheet 36-33 in favor of the Canucks. Just your thoughts on that, Cass?
Yeah, well, I thought the Canucks did a better job of being more physical. I mean, you pointed to the Zadorov play. Zadorov had a great game.
Yeah.
He played a great game. And I think the cross-checks on Leon is an example where he knew he's probably feeling it. Everyone saw he was feeling it, and we're like, well, if we can stick it to him a little bit, let's do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like the Edmonton Oilers weren't physical. They had a couple good hits, but the reality was Vancouver was more physical, we'll call it in the middle of the ice. They were more physical in front of their net. They were more physical in front of Edmonton's net. And that's not just getting hits that are going to show up on the score sheet, but they just battled better in those areas. Or Edmonton just didn't put pucks to those areas to battle in the offensive zone. We knew it was going to be a different series than LA. We knew LA, do they play aggressive on the forecheck? Yes, but then they also sit back in that 1-3-1. Vancouver plays aggressive all over the ice. And they did a good job of it, and Edmonton didn't respond well. The Edmonton's defensemen didn't respond well to some of the pressure that they were put under. Dakota Joshua wreaked havoc in the offensive zone, and they didn't respond well to it. Zadorov was physical, and the Edmonton Oilers didn't have a response to it. They were like, well, they didn't get to the middle of the ice on Zadorov, at least in the second half of the game. So I don't know. I don't have much else to say on it, I guess, but we knew it was going to be a different series than LA. It will continue to be a different series in LA. Edmonton, moving into Friday, has to bounce back and find a way, not to dominate Vancouver physically. Edmonton's not a team that needs to dominate physically, but for their guys. So we're looking at Evander Kane, looking at Corey Perry, looking at Warren Fogle. They're guys that play around the front of the net, that play in the corners. They have to do a better job of it, and they have to be the ones that are setting the tone and setting the stage for Edmonton to have success versus letting the Vancouver Canucks dictate.
I like physical play a lot. I appreciate it. It has a way of shifting momentum. It also wears down teams mentally. But is this a case, guys, where Todd McLellan always used the term, you got to play in the opponent's equipment like not necessarily pummel them to a pulp with physicality, but be super hard to play against? Does that factor in? Is that kind of something that could be or should be an onus here? Cass, is that what you were sort of alluding to?
Yeah, that's what I'm alluding to. That's when Edmonton plays well. Like when Edmonton plays well, they are aggressive on the forecheck, and it's not just running people over. It's finishing the hits when they're there, but high pressure, high intensity, always in your face, making it difficult for you to turn the puck up ice and try to generate offense yourself. And they didn't do that. And now some of that is because when they had the puck, they turned it over. But I don't think they did either a great job of pressuring Vancouver. Like it was too easy for Vancouver to come out of their own zone. It was too easy once Vancouver was in Edmonton's zone to hold on to the puck. Like Edmonton did not aggressively do a great job of the term that you and McClellan used, like of being in their equipment. They just weren't. They didn't do enough of that. And when they're having success and when they're playing well, and we saw that over and over during the regular season, and even against the LA Kings, they are. That's what they're doing when they're playing well and playing successful.
Yeah, it's in a playoff setting, 7-game series, you're trying to make the other team feel as uncomfortable as possible, right? And after the Oilers got up to that 4-1 lead, it seemed like, okay, let's just see how this goes at this point. I alluded to it. It looked like a regular season. Yeah, it looked like a regular season game.
And,
right?
and when they got that 4-1 lead, it was almost like, okay, well, we got this.
Yeah, no,
didn't have to earn it.
Yeah. No, you.
Well, that's why you ended up with what was it, like 4 shots or no shots in the 22 minutes after.
Yeah.
Which you said was unacceptable. Come on. And you're right. Yeah.
That's why I said it was a regular season game. That's when you just. If there's ever a time to embarrass a team, that's when you do it, right? Let's keep it in 5th gear. Let's keep going here. Let's shoot everything. They weren't in 5th gear before that. They weren't in 5th gear before either. But
shoot everything. Yeah,
just like to see the goals that were being allowed. That's when sometimes there's an old saying, it's point night.
Yeah, point night was fun.
Yeah, boys. Yep.
It was point night a lot when I played, not for my team, but I made a lot of careers. You got to keep shooting the puck from everywhere, in the feet, and get guys going. Like it drives me nuts sometimes with the Oilers, the way that they're so talented and they're capable of doing amazing things. But I think more is generated by playing just straightforward hockey, and then that other stuff develops from there. But yeah, I mean. It's got to go in the rearview mirror. This game, it was. I mean, even both teams. I mean, both teams are putting this in the. It doesn't matter anymore in moving forward, but I think it means way more for the Oilers on Friday night. Yeah,
not a Picasso certainly for both teams. More like kindergarten crayon picture. It's 2 guys and a goalie. Tom Gazzola in for Dusty Nielsen. He's on his way to Portland, calling the WHL final between the Winterhawks and the Moose Jaw Warriors. Joaquin Gage in studio. You've got Matty Cassian at his satellite studios. And Zach to come, making sure everything's running smoothly. Keep those texts coming in, 780-218-9999. Nasty chat, do your thing. Rip City Step says, Gager always makes me feel better. Calm, cool, and collected.
Oh, yeah. Just another thing. Thanks, Rip City. That's very nice of you to say, because I'm a mess inside the brain. But Portland Winterhawks, please refer to it as the factory from now on.
You would say that.
Portland guy.
Yeah. What a town, though. Hey, no wonder you like this. Great beers there.
Oh my gosh,
it is a craft beer haven.
It's fantastic. I was always hoping that obviously later on that an NHL team would go there, just to go down there and stuff. It's awesome. It's such a unique place. Like it's inland a little bit from the coast, so it's a little bit drier. It's not like Seattle, like right on the water.
Lush though,
but still really cool. Yeah. Best Pinots, like the elevation and somewhat to do with the air coming through the valley there. But for craft beer, I wish Dusty would take the big suitcase because I would love to get back down there.
Fun fact, that's where Gager bought his leather jacket. And also fun fact,
at Leather Daddy's.
Not surprised. Yeah, Gager is an absolute hipster. So we're going to see him wearing those flat-brimmed cowboy hats because that's what hipsters do.
He's wearing hemp underwear. Is that weird?
It's exfoliating like your loofah.
Hey, thank you for understanding. Finally, you're on board. Finally, it took forever. Library Pat texting us says, how much of yesterday's result was quote-unquote rust? Maybe game 2 will be better simply because their heads will be back into playing mode. That's from Library Pat. Who wants to take that one?
There's something to that a little bit. You know, you go from one series to the next. I think the week off, it was too long. You know, what would you say, Cass? Like maybe 4, depending on the team, like 4 or 5 days. I'd say 4 days is perfect. You're playing on day 5. To have the whole week and kind of just sitting around, it's so hard to go from that level of intensity and get it ramped back up right away. Yeah. I mean, look no further than Boston, Florida, right? Yeah. Boston's playing.
It would have.
Go ahead, Cass.
Will you finish?
No, I'm done.
I was gonna jump on that and say that 4 days like that. I think, you know, if we're looking at that break, the break served Vancouver better than it did Edmonton. Where the ideal situation for me would have been Edmonton, Vancouver playing on Sunday, like not having any time for Vancouver to be back at it, and having Edmonton just, you know, have a couple days, you know, extra time, and rolling again. Where I think the longer break probably again serve Vancouver better than Edmonton, but that's past you now. You know, now both teams have had the same amount of time off in between games, and there's no reason that you shouldn't be at your best heading into this one on Friday.
Let's go to a couple of texts, and we're going to get to bigger, hotter headlines. Coach Mike says, it's Skinner's second playoffs. How many is this for 25? Nurse and CC need to be infinitely better. Seventh best Gord says, let's call it what it is. Skinner wasn't great, but also we can't have Nurse at 9 schmil, bringing same value or less than guys making $1 million in the league. Let's get it together. That's Sask Gord, a.k.a. seventh best Gord. Bronx the Boilermaker says no shots, a few more in the gap may have won the game. Redbeard, hello Redbeard, says boys in soccer we call it simulation, an attempt to deceive the referee by falsifying contact. Redbeard, way to try to class up diving, Scott.
Oh my God, Scotty, I love you.
Simulation.
That's great.
Oh, that is eloquent. Yeah, we call that simulation. Oh, Redbeard. Great to hear from you. Cheers to Redbeard, by the way. I love that guy. Such a good dude. Hopefully see him. So we got to get him on the hangout.
Yeah.
This one comes in from the old 604.
Oh.
That's your territory. Says, hi from southeastern BC. My take is that until McDavid figures out the Canucks, Edmonton is in trouble. In the 4 games he's played against Vancouver this season, he has 4 points, 1 goal, 3 assists, and is -5. If either he breaks out or Edmonton finds a response, they are in trouble.
It's a team game. Connor McDavid cannot win a 7-game series on his own. He needs help. He's great. He's one of the few players in the league that can probably win a game on his own the way he can play, just like a goalie can influence a game, and that's very difficult. I think it's easier for a goalie to influence a game than an actual player, just because of the position. But I think Connor McDavid's more than capable of that. But look, this is behind closed doors. I would have loved to have had the microphone in that dressing room at certain points in the year and see how the discussions that were talked about from player to player. And I think that there's from all the prior years, this year seems like the year that they were way more focused on the end prize than the process, the everything else. Like let's get there and do our thing. So like Cass said, too long in between games. It's going to be a different Oilers team, but it's also going to be a lot different Vancouver Canucks team too.
Bring it on, man. If it elevates the play and they tighten it up, let's see what happens. To add to your point about McDavid too, Chris from Fort Mac says, my biggest concern was Janmark on the top line. Why? Cass, you and I talked about that last night. Totally agree.
Totally agree.
That's not happening tomorrow, right?
No
No,
way.
it's not. Hontorio Momes says Nurse managed to have a worse game than Ian Cole. Touche. Ian Cole, by the way, Thomas Drance had Ian Cole out from warm-up. He had Noah Juleson in there, and I read that. I'm like, oh, we've got an update. Ian Cole's out, but he did play, didn't have a good night, like you said, Cass. Boys, Lots of Oiler talk, obviously, but we do need to get to bigger, hotter headlines brought to you by Big Mama and Big Papa Pizzeria. BMPP, real pizzeria restaurant, not just a delivery pizza chain, serving authentic Italian cuisine with their maiden-house pizza dough, traditional tomato sauce, and fresh toppings. Each pizza is cooked to perfection. A pizza experience you've been waiting for. Visit them. 128th Ave, 12848, 97th Street. Order today, www.bmpp.ca, or call 587-746-0550. We need to talk about bigger, hotter headlines, one of them being the best, most important team in hockey, the Toronto Maple Leafs, firing their coach, moving on from Sheldon Keefe. I don't think we're surprised, right, Cass? But where do they go? And then Keefe, they're already saying, is probably a prime candidate for the Devils' job. Right?
Yeah.
I love the Cass. I don't know if you've seen
and this part is awesome.
This is awesome. The exit video from Keefe. It looks like he's in Bermuda on the water. Like it's all water behind him saying thank you.
Glorious.
Thank you for it's sunny out. He already looks better. Like there's some color in his face.
His soul growing back.
And he's thanking everyone for an extra 2 years. Like it's unbelievable. That's oh my God.
Making
I love
that
it.
paper.
Hang on here on the beach.
Like he knew exactly what he could have done that like a hostage video, but he didn't.
Yeah.
He chose from a beach somewhere. So well done. Clicks for Keefe on that one. But it was about time. It was about time that he departed.
Yeah. You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. Where do they go is going to be an interesting question. Traveling now, actually being able to put in a coach that he wants instead of Sutter, and maybe having some autonomy to do it a little bit.
Whoa,
Nice
we're not forgetting
Cass.
anything here.
Well, I'm serious.
But you're right.
And
It is true. It is true. It's 100% true.
And it's 100% true. That's not knocking on Sutter at all as a coach. Is that Trevling didn't want the extension, but he got overruled by his board. And because of friendships and a variety of different factors. And that's the main reason that he left Calgary. That's the main reason he left Calgary. He could have stayed. He had an offer on the table to stay. He did not take it because he was like, well, if I don't have the ability to actually make the decisions I want to make, how can I do my job? Now he's going to have that option here in Toronto. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. What do you guys think about Jay Woodcroft as head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I know they're already saying Berube, and they have been, and they're really hot and heavy for Berube.
Yeah.
But kind of a similar situation where they have in Toronto some really high-end core pieces, whether or not you like them compared to the Oilers' high-end core pieces, that's beside the point in this scenario. But if Jay Woodcroft is essentially getting a second crack at a similar type of situation, a la Stuart Skinner, maybe he is thankful and learned from those experiences and can be better and quickly figure it out on the fly. That's an interesting one to me, as opposed to Craig Berube, who is a very good coach, Stanley Cup pedigree, but seems like more of a hard driving type coach. I think Woodcroft would be better as a coach, having gone through what he did with Edmonton with the Leafs and have some basis of knowing how to handle players of that ilk. So I think he would be good. But Berube, everybody's saying that that's the guy.
Well, I think they are picking Berube because it was a kind of get to the no nonsense, like not put up with anything, right? The tyrant, like
a little bit harder.
Yeah, I think if Tortorella was available, the Leafs would be looking at that. I mean, they probably not that they might. They already tried that once a little bit, but I don't mind the. That's what the first name that came to mind was Woodcroft, just because. He's dealt with, one of the biggest two of the biggest superstars in the NHL, and had a lot of success. Yep. His winning record speaks for itself. Went through a tough patch for a bit there, but look at I would say look at the coaches that are fired, and look at their goalies' save percentage at the time they were fired. It almost matches.
It's crazy how these guys are getting axed left, right, and center.
Show me a coach of the year, and I'll show you a goalie with a 9.2 save percentage.
Jim Montgomery, Jeremy Swayman, Linus Ullmark. Ba-boom.
Boom.
Yep.
Cass, anything on that situation, or we're good?
Well, I mean, I think Woodcroft would actually make the most sense to me, but they may look at Berube and try to get Berube over just because of that, a little bit more edge to him, where Woodcroft doesn't necessarily have that. Now, Woodcroft does know how to manage those high caliber players, and as you said, Gator, like his winning percentage in Edmonton was great. His track record in Edmonton was great. Now he got let down this season by a team that just absolutely struggled. Still don't think it was him or his issue, but they could look to him as well. So those would probably be the two front runners that I would think would be in line in Toronto. But we'll have to see. We will have to see. I don't think they're going to rush it too quickly. That's for sure.
They shouldn't rush it. They got time, unless the guy they want is putting pressure on. So that it's going to be an interesting dance and process. Jason Leduc, I laughed when I read this one. Why Woodcroft? He got a Ferrari and drove it into an effing tree. Oh, nicely done, Jason Leduc. Boys, we have to throw out the keyword there for the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival VIP table entry. Right, Zach, to come?
Yes.
Thank you for the reminder. So if you don't know, we've got some VIP tables to give away this Saturday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
Yeah, first Friday. We're doing entries for Friday right now.
For Friday right now?
Yep.
VIP tables, these are sold out for the whole weekend, so they're a hot commodity. Even the general admission tickets, I think, are in limited amounts available. So this is going to be great. Obviously, the lineup's fantastic. And, Andrew Schultz, Kevin Hart, Bert Kreischer, and Whitney Cummings is going to be there as well. I'm forgetting one.
Shane Gillis. Shane Gillis on the Friday.
That's right. He was great on
Shane Gillis is really good.
Yeah, he was great on SNL.
Yeah.
So, keyword, do you have one, or do we have to come up with one?
Whatever word you want.
Jeez.
Putting you on the spot now, yeah.
Anybody have a suggestion? You're going to have to text it in 780-218-9999, and at random, we're going to pick someone to enter.
How about Funny Bone?
Funny Bone, all one word is the keyword to enter. Text that in right now. Funny Bone to 780-218-9999 to enter to win a VIP table for this year's Great Outdoors Comedy Festival. Alley Cat is the beer partner for the entire event, which is huge. And 6 O'Clocker Lager is one of the featured beers. Absolutely tremendous event. And, a big rah-rah. I saw Zach to come doing there behind the camera. So text in Funny Bone right now to 780-218-9999, and you will enter to win VIP table at the Friday night of the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival, which is going to be absolutely tremendous, happening down at Kinsman Park. Great venue too. I love that. We've got some really scenic areas in the River Valley, and putting events in there is just great. Nice way to highlight the nice parts of our city.
I love how we're getting into the festival time in Edmonton. We're out of the dark, so to speak. This morning was so bright.
I loved it.
Oh, it was so good. Yeah.
Funny Bone.
Can't wait. Funny Bone.
Good call, Cass. All right, boys, let's wrap up. I like this one. This is the Florida-Boston series. You could see wild swings from game to game. We saw Boston kick the living crap out of Florida in game one, and then Florida does it to Boston on the scoreboard and on the ice. David Pastrnak asking Jim Montgomery if he can fight Matthew Tkachuk, of all people. It wasn't a great fight, but it was the thought that counts, and the fact that one of the best players in the league fights one of the most annoying players in the league who's highly skilled and an all-star too. Cass, all of that makes you think what from what you saw?
Fun.
I love it.
I mean, I loved it. It was awesome, and I love that Pastrnak did that. I mean, it's a little bit scary. I think, especially if you're Jim Montgomery, in that we're like, ooh, not quite the matchup you'd hope for. Tkachuk being a guy that can handle himself, and Pastrnak not really known for it, but he wanted to stand in there and make a statement. And that's going to be a fun series. That's what I pull out of those first two games. That is a fun series to watch, and it's going to continue to be so. So I loved it. We'll have to see if tempers mellow out a little bit heading into game three as the series shifts locale. But it was a blast, guys. I loved watching that one.
The first thing that went through my mind in that scenario was Iginla and LeCavalier. when they fought, right? So I'm like, both of them kind of squaring, and you're thinking, LeCavalier, what are you doing here? You know, and
but LeCavalier is like 6'4".
I know, but he's not Pasternak. But I think that can be a big moment. I think for the Boston Bruins, in the fact that Tkachuk did what he was supposed to kind of do, just kind of pummel him. But for Pasternak to do that,
and he started throwing, he missed, but he
it wasn't like he got absolutely blown up.
He didn't. Yeah, so I think for both teams, I think it raises the temperature in that series. It's going to be awesome back in Boston. That's so much fun to watch.
The best part to me, like the fact they did it, Pasternak asking, like I love that lead up, and it all started at the referee circle by the penalty box. Yeah. They start talking, like, what the hell's going on? They go back to the benches, talk to their coaches. Then they go right off. They hop on the ice, and then they square off. I was just like, that was poetic in hockey, and they're not hurt, and that's the
only sport you get that in.
Yeah. It's brutal and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah. Kind of like me at 12:30 at night.
All right, boys, we're getting the the cue to wrap it up really quickly. Tomorrow night, Cass, what do you think?
I think we see a tighter game. Better game from Edmonton, tight game from Vancouver.
Joaquin, last word to you.
Unfortunately, I think it's back here, down 0-2, but going to be a way better game.
I'm going to stay positive. They get the split. They get the split. Boys, great show. Lots of fun. Thanks for having me, filling in for Dusty. A big thank you to everyone who tuned in, texted in, all that good stuff from Zach to come, Joaquin, Matty Cassian. I'm Tom Gazzola saying enjoy the rest of your day. That's going to do it for Two Guys and a Goalie. Big thanks to Coolbet and Big Mama's Big Papa's Pizzeria. Ciao for now.